Hello, number 55, Miss Nimmo. Today we're going to be learning about Alexander the Great, and we're going to go over some vocabulary first. I've printed off some pictures with some vocab. The first is infantry, and I did a nice little picture with Legos. Who doesn't like Legos? The next one, gully. The next one, tirade, trireme. And then the next one is talent. And that is more than $10,000. This is what it looks like in our age. This is what it would look like back then, but a bunch of points. And then the next one is zeal. I couldn't really find a picture for zeal, but I really like these people, how they're happy and got zeal, and that means eat your desire in going for a goal. My example is Jack's zeal made him stand out above all the other children during class discussion. And then finally, my last one is wretched, and that means very miserable or unhappy. He felt wretched about his cats, causing misery or distress. That wretched accident. Very poor in quality or ability. A wretched work. Okay, I'm going to leave these setting out so everybody can always refer to this as we go through reading some legends about Alexander the Great. First off, I'm going to read some questions to you. I want you to be thinking about this as we read these legends. Question 1. In the first story, why did Alexander pour the water on the ground? Question 2. In the second story, why did Alexander give the soldier who saved the hat band a reward? And why did he then order the man's head cut off? Question 3. How can you use these legends to argue that Alexander was great? Question 4. How can you use these legends to argue that Alexander was not great? You keep those in your head while you're thinking, and you guys each have them on your paper. Now you can either follow along as I read, or you can just listen. I do need to inform you that this is a secondary source of information, and I just need to give a little side note. Ancient biographers of Alexander told these stories. They are retold here by Arrian and a modern-day historian. True or not in their detail, the stories reveal two sides of Alexander that were probably accurate. Okay. The legend of the helmet. The army was crossing a desert of sand. The sun was already blazing down upon them, but they were struggling on under the necessity of reaching water, which was still far away. Alexander, like everyone else, was tormented by thirst, but he was nevertheless marching on foot at the head of his men. It was all he could do to keep going, but he did, and as a result, as always, was that the men were the better able to endure their misery when they saw that it was equally shared. As they toiled on, a party of light infantry, right here, which had gone off looking for water, found some. Just a wretched little trickle collected in a shallow gully. Wretched, very miserable or unhappy, or causing very poor in quality. So it's a very poor in quality gully. A wretched, poor in quality gully. They scooped up with difficulty what they could and hurried back to Alexander. Then, just before they reached him, they tipped the water into the helmet and gave it to him. Alexander, with a word of thanks for the gift, took the helmet and, in full view of his men, poured the water on the ground. So extraordinary was the effort. This action that the water washed by Alexander was as good as a drink for every man in the army. Okay, so anybody have any questions about that story? No? Okay, we did see some of our words. We seen infantry, gully, and wretched. So that must mean we got 3 more left. Does anybody want to make a prediction? Do you think Alexander was great in this story, or do you think he was not so great?
He was really great.
He was really great. Good, good. I like that. Okay, we will go on to the next story. The Legend of the Hat Band. Alexander was himself steering the Trireme, and Trireme right here, Trireme, that is a boat, a warship boat with oars, because of course they didn't have motors back then. When a strong gust of wind fell on his broad-brimmed Macedonian hat and the band that encircled it. The hat, being rather heavy, fell into the water. However, the band was carried along the wind and was caught by one of the reeds growing near the tomb of one of the ancient kings. One of the sailors swam off towards the band and snatched it from the reed. But he did not carry it in his hand, because it would have gotten wet while he was swimming. He therefore put it around his own head and brought it back to the king. Most of the biographers of Alexander say that the king gave him a talent. Talent right here. This is what it looks like nowadays, and it's more than $10,000, but back then it would have been coins. Most of the biographers of Alexander say the king gave him a talent as a reward for zeal. And zeal, if you remember, is its eager desire and going for a goal. So he gave it back. He was like super happy to give him this. Then he ordered his head to be cut off. Not so great. Because the prophets had explained that he should not allow the head that had worn the royal headband to be safe. So what do you guys think about that story? You think he was great or not so great? No?
Seeing how the engagement was suspicious of
Okay, so he had some taboos going on. He wasn't really sure.
confident.
Yeah, okay. I like that. I like that. Okay, so now let's go back and read and answer our questions. I'll read those to you again. Question 1, in the first story, why did Alexander pour the water on the ground? Why do you think he poured the water on the ground?
So he could show that he was with his troops and he wasn't going to drink water when they came.
Okay.
He didn't want to have water unless they could.
Okay, let's relate this back to your life. Let's say you're on a soccer team and your whole team's been practicing running, and you're the only one that brought water. Are you gonna feel comfortable drinking that water in front of the rest of the team? No, you're sure not. Okay, question 2. In the second story, why did Alexander give the soldier who saved the hat band a reward? We'll start there. Why do you think he gave him a reward?
Because he wanted to be nice.
He wanted to be nice, okay. Shows appreciation. If you lose your, what do you kids have nowadays? Cell phones. If you lose your cell phone, if you get it brought back, you might give him a piece of chocolate.
And a big hug.
Oh, and a big hug. Yeah, exactly. Why did he then order the man's head cut off?
He was superstitious, I think.
Superstitious?
The prophets were told him that you should not cut the heads of the
Very good, very good, very good. Okay. Question 3. How can you use these legends to argue that Alexander was great?
He showed compassion for his troops.
Oh, nice. Great vocab. Very nice.
So like nothing can penetrate them.
Okay. As you're writing that down, I'll read question 4. How can you use these legends to argue that Alexander was not great?
He cut someone's head off.
He cut someone's head off. We just don't do that nowadays. We just don't.
Helped him to cut his head off.
Yeah, exactly. All because of what the prophet said. Okay, very good. Okay, so today we learned some new vocab. We learned infantry, gully, trireme, wretched, zeal, and talent. And we learned some new legends about Alexander the Great. Is there any questions? That's okay? All right. Okay, we have a little bit of extra time left, so how about we write a letter to Alexander, and up here at the top it says, write a letter to Alexander explaining why or why not you think he was great. And if you want to, use some of this vocab. Get some of that in there. Okay. Is it over? 5 minutes.